There's so many people we can go to who can give us a lay of the land, a bird's eye view, a view from outer space, a macroscopic, myopic, singular vision of what's going on. And few better than Judge Janine when it comes to legal matters at Fox News, who seems, even though she was allegedly a judge at one point, still calls herself a judge at this point. Is well, we'll see if she's able to do it. But she brings on Joe Tacopina, or as we like to call him around these parts, he's Trump's lawyer, Joe Tacopina. We like to call him Joey Peanuts. I think it's a great nickname. I think Joey Peanuts does a fantastic job. He's terrific here in this kind of situation when he's, so Joey Peanuts, come on. And a judge is fresh from some Botox. It's a different thing. It's where they take the Botox and they freeze the skin and then they roll it and staple. It's a long process. I don't even want to talk about it. It makes me slightly nauseous. But she has on Joey Peanuts and a red jacket and 2 microphones because fancy. And to talk about this is fun. The title, possible Trump indictment coming this week. And then it says right here, Trump attorney Joey Peanuts. It is mind-boggling we are at this point. Okay. You're his attorney. If it's stunning that it came to this to you, that means it's your fault. If you're like, any first-year law student could get this kicked out of the courtroom, this is ridiculous. On its face, any judge, even the most liberal judge, would see this as an attack on the First Amendment and the blah, 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 but it's a man's life and his wife and blah, blah, blah. Any low-life ambulance chaser could get this kicked. I, however, suck, so he's probably going to go to jail. I honestly, my best legal advice to him would be find another attorney. So here we go. This is possible indictment coming. Joey Peanuts. It is mind-boggling that we are at this point.
In New York.
By the way, for the record, some minds are easier boggled than others, as I'm sure we will find out.
City, where the 45th president of the United States, Donald Trump, is expected to be indicted as early as tomorrow morning.
Yeah, but obviously we missed that deadline because they're fucking with him. I think, by the way, this was kind of a setup, too. Like, they were like, Tuesday, we need you to come in. They're like, Tuesday or Wednesday, maybe Thursday. Anyway, but anytime before Friday morning, but after Tuesday. You know what's good for me is noon on Tuesday. And so they're just like, with him, with Joey Peanuts and Trump, they're just like, like that. And it helps because, on the one hand, you might get some Long Island maggots who are, just have to drive or take a train in town to start some shit. But the real dangerous ones, the ones that are going to like bus in from Kansas or fly in on a, grab the quickest Spirit flight and a hotel room. They're not even done picking their Airbnb in a Russian-owned building. So they were all set to fly in last night and be there for their man. And then it didn't happen. So now what? I would say taking a show. New York is a fabulous place. It really is. You know what's the funniest thing is? When a bunch of these maggots show up in New York and don't get mugged, like they literally, to experience violence, a lot of them will have to start it themselves. You don't think some of them will go, that's weird, I walked all the way from the subway station to Trump Tower, and then we all walked, a bunch of us down there, and not one of us was hit in the head with a bat. Starting to think this orange shit gibbon is full of bananas.
These unprecedented charges from the state of New York could range from a misdemeanor to a low-level felony.
Well, he's a low-level guy, so I mean, if he was really worth his stuff, this would be a masterful felony of mega proportions on the lines, in the genre of like Bernie Madoff, but he's kind of an 8-bit criminal.
Derived from a novel legal theory about an alleged payment to a porn star.
Yes, an alleged payment to a porn star. By the way, you can kind of tell who's on Team Trump and who is not because of how they tell the story.
6 years ago. But today, in front of that grand jury, the state's key witness, Michael Cohen, was discredited by his own former legal advisor, Robert Costello. Take a look.
Wait a minute. So the fixer who was engaged in an illegal activity that he himself went to jail, like this dude was his legal advisor during the time that he did all the things that he went to jail for ultimately. Please go on.
I just spent 2 hours or so testifying before the grand jury in downtown Manhattan.
Did the point that I brought up ever come up? That you were his legal advisor before he came clean, like up to the point where he lied to Congress, like when you were his legal advisor during, says who? You were during that period.
And I got my point across, although it was clear to me that the Manhattan DA's office did not want to get to the truth. I need to explain that a little bit.
Yes, I think you do.
Called them up after I saw Michael Cohen on TV stating things that he said he was going to tell the grand jury and had told the grand jury that were contrary to what he told us when we first represented him in April of 2018. So I'm sitting at home.
You mean when he was lying on behalf of Trump? Back before he realized that his loyalty to Trump was a waste of fucking time and he was stupid for doing it, and he had an eye-opening experience, where he met his gullible self face to face and did not like the reflection. You mean before that, when he was like, hey, I'm a lying piece of shit working for a lying piece of shit. Whom shall I hire?
Home watching these lies, and I said, I've got to do something about it. I don't represent Donald Trump, but I do stand for justice, and I think I have a legal obligation to inform both sides. So that's what I did.
So you broke attorney-client privilege, and you recommend that attorneys break attorney-client privilege whenever politically expedient, or they think it might be. Smiling Poodle Lady, thank you so much. Thanks for subbing. That's so lovely.
So what does this testimony actually mean for the case going forward?
Fuck all. You're welcome.
In just a moment, we'll review the horrendous track record from New York's leftist, incompetent, Soros-funded, and politically charged District Attorney Alvin Bragg.
Yeah, terrible. The guy can't do anything right except scare the shit out of Donald Trump, apparently. There are some people, they just have one skill, and they do that one thing really well.
But first, joining us now with more on what we can expect this week.
And we do mean moron.
Trump attorney Joe Tacopina.
Joey Peanuts, what's happening? Fantastic. And he doesn't look at all like a Trump attorney would look to any of us. I swear to God, this guy looks like Michael Cohen's stunt double. It's like Trump is doing with attorneys and fixers what he does with wives. He just found the younger model.
All right, good evening, Joe. There's so much to talk to you about.
Excuse me, that's Sergeant Peanut to you.
I find that statement that Bob Costello gave to Tucker within the last few minutes to be stunning, but not so surprising, I guess, in terms of his saying it's clear to me the Manhattan DA did not want to get to the truth. What can you tell us about?
Well, yeah, he was reluctant to charge Trump or go through with this. He had people in his office who resigned because they saw the evidence and they're like, what the fuck are you waiting for? And he was going to, ironically, treat Trump like they accuse him of treating violent criminals in New York, which is just letting them go. Bragg is not a prosecutorial DA. Literally, he's thinking that there's only about 10% of crimes that need any kind of charge at all, and he's trying to keep his number as low as possible. Because in a city like New York, if you bring a case, more than likely, you're going to put somebody in jail because they do awful shit. There's a lot of people in New York. There's a lot of money to be made. There's a lot of pedestrians and suckers and future serial killer victims in a city that big. And if you start bringing cases, those fuckers are getting convicted because they're guilty. The only way to thin the herd in the jails and in the prisons in New York in general is to not charge guilty people. And Bragg, ironically enough, that's been the big complaint from the right about Bragg. And it was also the complaint of his fellow DAs or the people under him who were like, what the fuck is the matter with you? We've seen look at this. He's guilty. There's a dozen fucking crimes here. And he's like, I don't know.
The charges, if they're coming, and if so, when?
You do realize you're talking to Trump's attorney. He's probably the last person who knows the details. I feel like even people in my chat probably know the answer or have a better guess at it than he does.
You know, Janine, I mean, they're not obviously keeping us in the loop. And I've really racked my brains trying to figure out how they could fit that round hole into a square peg or a square peg into the round hole.
Yeah, it's the other way around, actually. Fitting a round hole into a square peg is not difficult. It's about size at that point. Don't ask me how I know that.
It's mind-boggling that we're at this point. This is a case.
If I had a mind, it would be boggled right now, Judge.
That has, I heard you say novel legal theory, some said. There is.
Yeah, she just said that.
Absolutely no legal theory that matches the facts here. There's two very.
Well, that's what a defense attorney should say.
Important things that happened. This was a settlement like any other settlement, in a nuisance settlement, in a claim of this manner, where someone.
Yeah, okay. Just don't say hand job during Shark Week with someone who isn't your wife shortly after she just had a baby. This matter. We'll just leave it at that. That's way better. Thanks, Joey Peanuts.
Claiming they had a relationship and they were going to go public with it.
I wouldn't call it a relationship. I mean, in Trump world, that might qualify as a relationship because he probably thinks of some of his ex-wives in the exact same category as people he got a handy from in a foreign hotel room. So,
AKA extortion, by the way.
Oh, yeah? Well, I guess, so you're saying that the former president has things in his past that he could be extorted for, and therefore his proximity to national secrets might be a bad thing. Essentially what Joey Peanuts is saying is if this asshole tried to get a regular government job at any level, they would broom him because he's got money problems and suspicious ties and extramarital affairs, and they all kind of come together in one seedy office meeting in Trump Tower.
But that's nothing more or nothing less than what this was. It was a settlement.
Nothing more and nothing less.
Made by a lawyer, okay? And the lawyer subsequently created invoices and billed the client for much more than that, and for other things.
And for other things. What were those things?
Understand this.
Uh-huh. So you're going on the shipping and handling defense. Your Honor, I did not buy the Supermax dildomatic penetrating penis stretcher. I didn't do it. I didn't buy it. He bought it. I just paid him plus shipping and handling. He bought it. I'm just saying, technically speaking, Your Honor, I'm being charged with what? Paying shipping and handling? Sue me. So I'm a big fan of Ronco.
There's two really crucial distinctions here.
Yes. One, she wasn't his wife. Two, it really happened. Please go on.
One, this was paid not with campaign funds, but with personal funds.
Right. Yeah, that's because he was self-funding his fucking campaign, dummy. So at that point, all your spare money can become campaign funds. You didn't think about I don't know, maybe as Joey Peanuts, as a lawyer for someone running for president, perhaps you ought to sit the fucker down and give him a little lesson in why, in some cases, campaigns separate their personal funds from their campaign funds, specifically through either loans that are tracked or just by getting donations. One of the reasons you do that is not just because you want other people to pay for your campaign, but because it stiff arms shit like this from stuff like that.
If President Trump thought this was a campaign violation, certainly, or something that would fall within the purview of a campaign, it would have been paid with campaign funds. Second,
again, he bragged about self-funding his campaign, dumbass. Like, this is so bad.
and most importantly, the bright line test for personal use, whether it is or is not a campaign donation, is when you have personal funds, you look to see if that payment would have been made irrespective of the candidate's campaign. Here,
so the question is the timeliness of it, and I guess we're going to have to learn in Discovery, Joey Peanuts, and way to fuck it up for everybody. I guess we're going to have to learn how many women he's paid to keep their mouth shut, because that will be his defense now. You fucking moron. This guy over here, this guy, talk about walking into a rake. Hey, dumbass, you realize what you just said? Do you realize what you just said? Yeah. And by the way, Leather Goddess of Phobos says it was paid for in personal funds, reimbursed in campaign funds. Get it? Yeah, we get it right. We know this. But let's just enjoy the fact that this fuck up just gave Alan Bragg, or whoever is prosecuting the case directly, the ability to ask, because of a protestation made by his attorney on national television, well then, how many women have you paid to keep their fucking mouth shut during your 3 marriages? And what were those amounts, so that we know if this was more or standard issue, and whether, if you did it a bunch of times, when did you do it? Did you do it because your wife got a phone call and you're like, down low, or because you had a book coming out, or you had a new season of The Apprentice and you were trying to tamp something down that might bite into your NBC deal? Because if that was the case, and you did it to protect your book sales, and then you did it to protect your show, and then you did it to protect your campaign, that's a fucking campaign donation. See what I'm saying? You can't. Do I have to, folks? Do I have to outthink everybody? Okay.
clearly the answer is yes, as even Michael Cohen had to testify under oath when he pled guilty, that it was done to protect the president and his family from personal embarrassment.
Yeah, but he was lying then. That's the whole point. And he came clean and he went to jail because he was lying.
So it's mind-boggling that we're at this point. The rule of law is being stretched to pursue a political opponent of this prosecutor, and this prosecutor's
Wait a minute, Alan Bragg's running for president?
support.
He's probably got a better chance than Trump of securing the Republican nomination right now.
System, which is the far left, the George Soroses of the world, who loathe everything Donald Trump, and so they're using it.
No. Yeah, that's not fair. George Soros made his billions manipulating currency, shorting the British pound, essentially, engaging in, in currency manipulation that wrecked homes. There is no way that George Soros's method of getting his billions didn't result in a myriad of suicides and businesses going out of, like shutting down, people going out of business, and financial fortunes completely destroyed. There's no way it didn't happen. So in terms of that, there's a lot about Trump that Soros might actually like. They basically, both of their financial histories are based on bullshit that's maybe legal, but completely immoral. Now, in this case, it seems like Soros is trying to make up for it late in his life, like he's aware that he was a fucking scumbag and that people died because he decided to make money on shorting the pound and manipulating currency markets. Still an asshole. But the only place they seem to differ is one of them thinks that penance can help and the other one thinks it's for losers.
Case that, by all accounts, was
all billionaires are horrible, honestly. Yeah, not really. Nope. The growth of the economy across the world has created multiple accidental billionaires. And by the way, in a myriad of industries that are completely optional. The billionaires I have a problem with are resource billionaires. I or my family was born on top of a pile of shit and you need it or you're going to die and you can't have it unless you go through me. That's awful. If you dream up an app and you become a billionaire because of whatever, I give a shit. If you're not enslaving people to get it made, it's not even in the ballpark of how, the folks that you're talking about. That's another conversation for another time. But I would like to say, but for the record, that let's just pretend that Trump is a billionaire for a second. He isn't. But let's pretend that he and Soros both fit into the awful billionaire category, for the record, even if Soros is trying to make up for it.
Then on arrival, by all accounts, was turned down by every other agency that looked at it, and by this district attorney's office, who had put this in the grand jury 2 years ago, and then withdrew it from the grand jury.
All right,
because they didn't.
Because they were because of January 6th, because there were bigger fish to fry.
Find that there was enough.
They figured he was going to be impeached and go to jail on other shit, and it would look petty by comparison. But then at some point they're like, you know what? If anybody else broke this law, they'd be in deep shit. Why does he get a pass? Please go on.
To bring a case.
All right, so just so we're clear, there is nothing illegal about giving someone money for them to be quiet. It's
Thank God. Whew. I mean, what? No, Judge, you're safe.
Done every day in the corporate world, in the business world. It's called an NDA. So
You don't pay people to sign an NDA. You might have to pay somebody enough so that they will sign an NDA, but usually you get them to sign an NDA when you've paid them so that people don't know you paid them and ask what you paid them to keep quiet about, because that kind of defeats the whole purpose of fucking paying them, one would think. But hey, the great thing is it's not illegal. It's just, in this case, gross and immoral. But, only if you're an evangelical Christian posing as a pious individual.
when they say it was an illegal payment, let's make it clear it was not. That's number one.
Well, the reimbursement would have been the illegal part because he paid through another party because he had an awareness of guilt.
Number two.
Ew, there was number 2 involved? I always heard it was just a pee-pee tape. I can't take it.
The statute of limitations, Joe, has run on this.
Yeah, that's the other thing. It may be illegal, but it's been way too long. He got away with it. I mean, for the American judicial system to survive and for America to not collapse under the weight of this horridness, we have to let Trump get off on a technicality.
Plus, you've got a Manhattan DA, this Soros-funded prosecutor, who's trying to bootstrap a federal crime when the feds have already said it's not a crime. Is that correct?
Well, is it correct that it's not a crime? Or is it correct that they've said it's not a crime? Or is it correct your entire statement? Your Honor, can someone read that back? I don't know. And don't tell me you spilled wine on the stenographer typewriter thing again, because I know that's how you translate Janine to English, but
The feds have said it. Yeah, the feds have said it. The Federal Election Committee has not ever ruled that this was
the committee
was a violation. They looked at it. As a matter of fact, Bradley Smith, the former chairman of the FEC, said this is in no way, shape, or form a crime.
Well, they might not say it's a federal crime, but in the state of New York, you see, New York, because what's it called? States' rights. That's right. States have the ability to prosecute crimes that the feds might pass on as a federal crime because it didn't defraud all voters, perhaps because it was singular to Manhattan and New York and where the candidate lived at the time when he pulled it off, and he wasn't president at the time, that he's literally just doing this to defraud New York voters. And New York has the right to say, we don't give a fuck if you guys want to bullshit, if you're going to let him bullshit your folks, we're not going to let him bullshit our folks. Or you could just have the federal government overrule all local DAs in cities and states across the country. And I would love to hear your case for that, Mr. Small Government.
That the facts presented here, coupled with the laws, don't equate to a crime. Look, again, this government official should not be stretching the laws or should not be taking novel legal theories.
Look, go easy on Joey Peanuts. He's trying not to say pay off a porn star to keep her trap shut, and not that trap, the other quit it.
Beyond their normal means to get people that they think are unpopular or they don't like or have a political animus towards. I mean, one of the prosecutors from that office left that office and
so you should only prosecute people you like. That's a rough one. That's rough.
Decided to write a book in violation of grand jury secrecy laws and the canons of ethics and all those other things. But what
Janine's just Mark Pomerantz.
What he said in that book was, there were so many pearls in that book for President Trump, but one of them was that they despised him so much, he despised him, he would have paid to prosecute Donald Trump.
Right.
Think about that. We were both prosecutors, Janine. Just think about that statement and those implications. And then here's the kicker.
Yeah, but there are people who would have paid, for example, to prosecute Gotti or prosecute Jeffrey Dahmer or the fucking Unabomber. They would have loved to have been able to make their bones on a major case like that, especially in a case where Trump is involved, because there's so many times he could have gotten busted in the past and people didn't do it. So some DAs are like, I'd love a shot at that motherfucker because I know he's guilty. I've seen the evidence. I don't know why everybody would, ducked out of it before, but I sure as fuck wouldn't. This goes back to like, Tisha James, when they're talking about like, she hates Trump and she ran on hating Trump and she got elected on running the most like fuck Trump campaign of anybody in the country, which tells you something about how New Yorkers view him in general, and their awareness of what a shitheel he's been the entire time he's been in the fucking city. But ultimately, it doesn't matter if she fucking hates him. If she brings the case and she doesn't have the facts, a guy that wealthy, or at least with those amount of resources, mostly from the RNC, wouldn't be, it'd be nearly impossible to convict him on circumstantial evidence or softball evidence. You'd have to have it. If you're going to swing, you got to be able to connect. And so the idea that it takes somebody, it literally would take somebody who seethes about certain criminals to take them on, because the only reason you get to seething about it in the first place is because you're aggravated that they haven't gotten busted before, because they fucking deserve it.
They hated the man so much that they were looking for a crime.
No. Everywhere they looked, they saw crimes. That's why they hated him. Like, the idea that he's some sort of like corner grocer, that people just didn't like his accent, or he was the fucking soup Nazi, and they decided to go after this poor little guy, as opposed to this motherfucker's been at this for years. Yes, this is outrageous.
To fit. It's not supposed to be that way in this country.
You're right. It isn't. It's supposed to be that if you've been criming for at least a decade and you're a rich asshole in New York, you should actually have to face those charges at some point so that people can get it on the books. Instead of being able to like bribe your way out of it, or engage yourself in some sort of protection racket with the former fucking mayor / attorney, city attorney, Rudy Giuliani, as a buddy that you can co-crime with so that he covers your ass. That's not supposed to be how it works. It is in New York a lot.
Not supposed to be where you look for a crime to fit a target that you don't like. You're supposed to get in.
You're supposed to look for crimes on people that you really love. I mean, it's important to be suspicious of everyone. Also, they keep using pictures of Trump in his gloves, which I find very odd, and it's got a very OJ feel to it, and I think it's a mistake.
Information that gets brought to your.
It wouldn't it be weird if he bought the OJ gloves or he got them like at an auction. Somebody else he bought with his charity funds. He bought them at an auction, and he's wearing OJ's gloves.
Attention of a crime, and then you hold responsible those parties that you deem committed this crime. That's not what happened here, and it's not what is happening here. And
right, that's not what happened here. That's not what happened.
And it's unbelievable. And now I got to be honest with you, people on the opposite side of the political spectrum from Donald Trump are coming out saying, "What are we doing here?"
No, they're really not.
We're going to create a breakdown in the rule of law in this country.
If we don't prosecute him. Because if you could be this egregious and not get prosecuted, then there is no system. The rest of us live under a justice system, and there are those among us who do not. That's how you have a failed judicial system. And by the way, if he's convicted with circumstantial evidence that goes nowhere, and they refuse to, show the receipts and blah, 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 and it's a railroad case, and they just, he gets half a day, and they're like, guilty. Sanction your attorney before he says a fucking word. Off to jail. Then you could have a case about Banana Republic and all this stuff. This asshole is going to have all the negotiating runway he could possibly want.
Anarchy. It's horrible that a prosecutor's office is being used as a weapon against a political opponent. And Janine,
wait, is Alan Bragg doing this because he hates Trump, or is he being used and he doesn't really hate Trump? Because if he's whatever.
What happened today, I assume, the House Judiciary Committee, led by Jim Jordan, sent a very terse, very strong letter.
Oh, no. A letter. What? Which one was it? Was it F or U? That's terrible. It's in a very... I was like, tack. What I'm writing right now. Exclamation point. Is it in all caps? No. Fuck. Ding. Caps lock.
Bragg's office saying, we want you under oath, and we want to understand.
Yeah, he as an officer of the court, he's technically under oath in all of the stuff that he does. You do realize that, right?
Exactly how this political, as they call it, the political prosecution began and when it began. Because according to Alan Bragg, a few months ago, he wouldn't have trusted Michael Cohen for anything. I mean...
And then apparently he saw some paperwork.
He said there was no world in which he could envision bringing a case against Donald Trump.
Why would anyone trust Michael Cohen? The man's been convicted of perjury, lying to Congress.
On behalf of Donald Trump.
Congress, he said for years there was never any problem with Donald Trump, and now all of...
Yeah, that was during the big lying phase. And when he was saying it, he was embarrassingly bad at it.
All of a sudden, there's a problem. But Joe Tacopina, I must tell you, this is making America a banana republic in terms of our justice system, in terms of the...
You God. Not bananas.
The inequity that's going on. So,
wait a minute. Judge Janine is for equity all of a sudden? Because the opposite of equity is inequity, one would say. I just think that I think it's sad that she throws in CRT right at the end when she's talking to Trump's lawyer. That's just rude.
Stay in touch with us and let us know.
Yeah, if and when you find anything out. Tell us what's happened after other people watch it happen. Joey Peanuts.
What you hear in this and whether or not this will go forward. But your sense is that it will, Joe?
I still hold out hope. I really do, Jeannie. I hold out hope that some sort of sanity is going to prevail inside of that office. I understand there's a lot of disgruntled employees in the Manhattan DA's office right now. I'm holding out.
Oh yeah, everybody's mad. Oh, like, so like there was a bunch of people who are pissed off. They're so team Trump. There's a bunch of those people. I mean, they won't come forward. None of them will say it on camera, but truthfully, like they're like, he's my dude.
Hope that justice will prevail. And if that happens, then there will be no charge, because it's a case that will die on the vine. This will be a.
Then again, I don't know what you're worried about. This is one of those situations where one would think, and I certainly would require my attorney in interviews like this to say things along the lines of, we look forward to our day in court. You know what I mean?
Lasting stain on the legacy of that DA's office. So they won't win this case. I promise you that. And you could play this tape back in a year from now. They will not win this case. We will win it on the law. We'll win it on the facts. Wherever we go, we will win this case.
We will win it on the hustings. We will win it in the skies and upon the seas. We will hush this porn star payment up for all times.
All right. Joe Tacopina, thanks so much for.
Joe Tacopina. See, it's just easier to say Joey Peanuts. Joe Tacopina, which sounds like a colon problem, I got to say. He's in the hospital. What happened? He's got something called Tacopina. It's this thing where you have, like, you get a piece of venison stuck in your outer colon, and it works its way up, and it creates diverticulitis that's so big that it creates a parallel intestine. That's where the Tacopina, it goes off into the other parts or whatever, and then it produces peanuts that show up in your poop as liver fat. I'm so glad we have box wine.